All right, welcome back to the Coach's Corner Show, brought to you by Beggar's Pizza. All right, our guest tonight, he's the man of the half hour, Tom Mulvey from Athletics. Tom, thanks for coming on board again.
Hey, Pat, thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit in depth here with muscle physiology and potential impacts with training and injury. And where do you want to start on this, Tom?
You know what, some of the past shows, I think we've touched on a lot of topics that were helpful, but as you know, we talk about it all the time, more and more of these kids are training harder and trying to find certain niches where they can get an edge. And I'd really like to take this opportunity to break down a little bit about the muscle physiology and what these parents should be thinking about when they experience this type of training for their kids.
Okay. You want to talk about some basic developmental principles?
Sure.
That govern how humans evolve, which actually starts in the womb, you're saying, huh?
It starts when in development, when they're born, actually, from the womb when they're born. If you think of back to the time where the baby first struggles to just lift its head, and then soon the upper extremities follow. Soon after that, the lower extremities follow. A lot of those principles, especially neurologically, are still prevalent when we are, going through youth to adolescence and into adulthood. And they're principles that really should apply when we analyze these kids and determine in what ways we want to progress to train them. For instance, as we talked about what we call cephalot to caudal, but that head to tail. We also talk about proximal to distal, from shoulder, say, or hip to further in the extremities. We also talk about going from unilateral, where they are first using, a dominant hand, and in how many sports do we really say it really helps if you have a non-dominant, being able to function over the midline.
Yep.
And then going from static to dynamic, which implies, when we look at static, having good balance so that you can progress into mobility. All those things apply to how we train these kids.
Okay. And then you want to talk about these principles are based upon both healthy, neurologic, and muscular development. So how does that all progress?
So we're assuming that we have nice, healthy, youth that are participating in sports and being worked with. It's important to remember that these kids are all different, and they have different strengths, and they have different abilities. And the parents should be looking to see when they're being trained. Not only are they being trained to strengthen or speed train. If we look at, I have a picture here of how the neurologic system works with the muscle system, and one of the things it points to is just kinesthetic awareness, or the ability for the nerves to also affect the person's ability to know where they are in space. As they start to develop better balance in static positioning, that allows them to then evolve into more dynamic things and to work, at progressively higher levels. We have to look at how are they shoulder-wise. We kind of laugh about the days of gym and doing push-ups and whatnot, but if these kids can't do push-ups where they have, somewhat of stability at their proximal areas, they can't really progress into mobility, which may be, showing up for freshman football and all of a sudden being thrown into the weight room.
Yeah.
There's progressions that we need to think about so that we make sure that we don't injure these people. But stability is important. The kinesthetic awareness, being able to have better balance. You think of your football linemen being able to have a hold position,
yep,
so that they can explode into very aggressive movements. They need to have that basic level of development.
Okay. And how does the physiology of muscle come into play in this, Tom?
The muscle starts with a very basic motor unit, which is a single little fiber, and then from that becomes an intricate, grouping of fibers that will eventually form what's called a muscle unit. That unit is each fiber innervated by nerve, and that nerve allows those fibers to work specifically for certain levels of functional activity. For instance, they classify them into two types, and the second type has a couple of other divisions. But the first type is a slow twitch fiber, which is something that you look at for more endurance. Those fibers are really found proximally. They're found, say, in the shoulder, or they're found into around the joint. They could be found around the hip. They are the ones that really give you the endurance to develop stability. The type 2 fibers are more, they're more fast twitch for greater activities, and they have less endurance, but they have more ability to generate power.
Okay. Do you want to stick on this subject, or you want to go to break and pick it up?
Well, why don't you go ahead to your break, and then we can pick it up right after that.
That sounds good. All right, folks, we're going to go to Elisa Thomas Salon. Timeout. Remember, high school kids, flash your high school ID. Girls, $27 haircut. Guys, $17 haircut. Can't beat that. At Lisa Thomas Salon in Mokina, Tinley Park, and Orland Park. We go to this timeout. We come back. More with Tom Mulvey. Stay tuned.